What do you think out of all of these years? What is the hardest part of being an artist? Specifically, for you? What do you hardest part?
The hardest part, I would say, is when you say the hardest part, I'd say the most unenjoyable part, okay, for me, is the idea that, once you put the work out, that time between someone looking at it and it leaves your studio and someone's looking at it and what happens to it.
How do you feel like you approach an idea? What is your process like in the sense of when you're starting a new series? Do you have a method, or it's very intuitive, or how I want to break this down for, let's say, people who look. There are a lot of people who look up to you.
Yeah, that's really, I wonder how I start too. I usually begin with, I have color that I'm mixing. So I'll mix, recently, pink has been a color that I'm mixing up.
Okay, here we go. Welcome to the podcast, Philemona.
Thank you very much. So nice to be here.
Very, very excited to have you. And we both have made a lot of effort to make this possible.
Yes, technical effort on my part because I'm challenged that way.
No, I think technology is new for all of us. It does not matter. We just have different degree of where we get stuck. And not only technology, aren't we all learning like students of life? Like, there will always be something that I may not know, you may know better than me, and somebody else would know better than each one of us. So it's a circle, isn't it?
That's true. That's true. I just think that, as a painter, I have really been sort of focused just on paint. I do draw also, but my practice is just painting, and the idea of adding technology to it or thinking about it is just so outside of the realm of my thinking that everything that has to do with the computer just feels like overwhelming. It's like, what?
What do you think about the art people are making with AI today then?
No comment. No comment. I no comment. I can't really say anything about that. When I don't, I enjoy the physical process of making things. I enjoy the messiness of it. I enjoy you know, the smell of oil paint. Oh my God, it's all over my hands, and I didn't mean it to get there. I enjoy wiping off paint from a canvas with a big rag. So the cleanliness of working on a computer, I don't understand at all. But that's my process. I'm sure everyone has a creative process.
I started off being digital. I'm still very digitally savvy. Like, I am pretty comfortable, but I get to the where you say physical. Like, even though I love digital and I'm very comfortable and all of the, but just the creative part, like making something with my own hands and having textiles and like fabric and things and getting messy, like that feeling. It's like I want to make art also, because not only because I have something to say, or sometimes I don't have something to say. It's because I want to, like, it's like it grounds me, it gives me connection, it takes me to nature. I like, it's something that I just cannot be without.
Right. Yeah, that's how I feel. But I'm sure there are many advantages to the digital, which I should. I have found that I usually use a model, like a real model, for some of the poses. They can't get into all of the poses that I have my figures get into, but I will use. They're complicated, yeah, and they're contortions. They're contortions. So I will I'll use the top part of a model, and then I'll say, okay, let's just do the top part of you, and then have your legs do this at another time. And I have found that if I take a photograph of them in the pose that I think, the full pose, and look at it, it's like, whoa, that's really impossible. Okay, let's. So it's just like another sort of.
So you twist it up then.
No, I don't use it. Then I look at it and think, oh, yeah, I see. That really is impossible. That's not the composition that I want for that body to be in. I really wanted something, and so then I invented. So it's really, I look at the reality, see what the reality would look like, and then I change it. So, so I do, it's another long process that I go through as opposed to just putting the work on it.
When was the first time? Do you remember when did you pick up a brush or started to paint? What was the first time for you?
The first time was when I was in junior high school, and I was really fortunate enough to go to a school where they had a special art program, and it was the art. It was special because they had artists teaching, and it was like one person teaching. And she was a painter, Joan Thorne, and she's a friend, which is incredible. And so it was really showing, it was a music, art, and a science. There are three accelerated components in the school. And what happened, they were all, artists were teaching art, scientists were teaching the science section, and musicians were teaching the music part. And so it was, they presented their discipline in a very different way than it wasn't busy work. It wasn't something, here, play a pretty song. It was really about the practice, the discipline of the art that you were doing, or the science you were doing, or the music you were doing. So you learned about actually making it, but you also learned history. You learned about criticism. You learned about decisions that you're going to make. But in a very, it was junior high school, so it was not elevated way, but it was just a very, like, if you're going to make, if you what's the first thing you'd like to do on this canvas? Like, maybe you'd like to draw something. What's the idea? But so that was very exciting to me, because it made, as an adolescent, you have no control over anything. Your body is changing. The world around you is like, get away. And this was the time when, what? I'm in control? I can do what a wonderful feeling. What a wonderful feeling of power to have when you feel so powerless in everything else in your life. So that was when I started, and I just went, oh, this is it. I also had personal things.
Did you feel you were good at it?
I beg your pardon?
Did you feel you were good at it?
You know what? It's interesting because, people will say, "Oh, they must have thought you were really talented." I guess that wasn't the focus. It was like, this is a job that you're doing. This is something to pursue, and yeah, I guess, of course you want to be good at it, but you don't think that you're, "Oh, I'm an artist." Da da da. Yeah, you're just thinking, "Oh, I'd like to be good at this painting." Like, you go from piece to piece to piece. It's not. I'm going to be an artist when I grow up. It was nothing. No, no. Yeah, it was just like, oh, I drew.
Did you even know an artist, like being like a possibility of what it means to be an artist, or even just getting paid? We all have livelihoods, like bills to pay, and you know, so just thinking like you could paint and get paid. Like, was that something that you knew was possible?
No, it wasn't possible. I mean, my family was not in the arts at all. My mother worked as a domestic, and my father was a chauffeur. And so the the idea of course, it was important. Like, how are you? I mean, they didn't present it to me in junior high school, of course, but growing up, like, after in high school, it was, well, because I went on to a specialized art high school. What's the job? And they thought, teaching. You teach art. That would be the thing. And because I had had such wonderful art teachers along the way, that didn't seem, and they weren't just art teachers, they were practicing artists who were teaching. They were artists teaching other people to be artists. And then, so it was naturally assumed, oh, then you would get a job teaching. That was,
So you thought, okay, this could, like, you could become a teacher.
I could pay my rent by teaching. That was, and teaching art. It was a profession that was wonderful. Yeah, I loved all of my teachers. And all of the students were super happy. So it seemed like, okay, well, that's fine. It wasn't. And of course, I would go to museums and galleries, because the teachers would have shows, or they so I'd go and see them. I wasn't specifically focused on, oh, how much is that painting that they're selling, and how much are they, the business part of it, or the actual. And the teachers weren't either. When I was growing up, they were not. It was not as maybe it was not as profitable as art has become. It is. It wasn't a. It was a profession that. Beg your pardon?
I'm saying not for, also not for many, like not if let's say the 100 people, only few make it to the top where they're actually they can make money and save money and have like grow their careers and lives and everything. A lot of people still manage it with 2 3 jobs and like you know
Right, right, and and that was fine. As long as you had your art practice, as long as you were still painting, you had your studio, and that was fine. It wasn't that you have to be world renowned or getting all of these acclaims. It was really accolades. It was just
what was the first time when you started to feel like, okay, this could become something like, you're not only an artist, like you found a lot of success and validation, even if we say, from really amazing places, and also where, even we see in a successive way, from Art Basel to like, you've done a lot of, there's a lot of visibility for you. And your work has also of late been, very well received, and also the narratives and the story. But did you ever, when you thought like you were pursuing, did you ever think that this could turn out like this for you? Like, did you have any kind of,
did I I
like, did you think about it? Did you think about, oh, my work is going to be in museum one day, or I will do this, or like, did you have those dreams?
I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure I wanted that. Did I verbalize it? Did I have a plan to make it happen? No, none of that. What I did, I knew, I guess, after I graduated from college and I was about to go to, no, I think this was even after graduate school. I was showing in a cooperative gallery in Soho for a few years after. And at one point I said to myself, I think I would like to not show in this cooperative gallery, but to take it a step further. If I'm going to pursue my work, if I'm going to, devote my life to painting, what do I want to say, and who do I want to see it, and what do I want to say? And, I just was thinking, look, let's just, this situation is good, and it's going along fine, but I want more. I want more of a critical eye on the work. I want more intensity to what I'm producing. I want to really be, as they say, my authentic self, and that's when I did a series called Childhood Memories, and I stopped showing at the Cooperative Gallery, and I pursued a museum show at the Queen's Museum. They had a program where you could submit work, and you might be selected to have a show. So I said, you know what? That I'm going to focus completely on who I am, why I am painting, what I want to say. And I did a body of work, and then I presented it to the museum, and that's really how it started. So it was really me taking control of, maybe I do want more than this, but it wasn't, and now I want to do this. It was really one step at a time, and it was like I would like to move from a cooperative gallery to a regular gallery, and the and this was an opportunity that I could try for, and so I risked it and went out to the for the Queen's Museum of Art, and that's sort of how it all started, and that's how I got my first gallery, June Kelly in New York, and a California gallery, the Wanger Gallery in California. So I got both of them because of that one show, and which, again, it was something that I risked everything to go out and do that. But that's sort of how it's been along. Like I was lucky enough to get a review from someone at the Times. Um, and then, of course, if you're in the paper, people pay attention, and so they saw right, and
You find a few patrons, a few supporters. They help you gather more.
right, and that's what a few supporters, and I really, I'm, you know, it's not that I'm a big astrology person, but my sign is that I'm Capricorn. I'm a goat, and it really, and they always portray Capricorn as someone who's just climbing up the hill, and it's like that. That's what I do. I just take one step at a time, keep going, and I will get to the top. And along the way, all these great things I'm going to meet and see and will happen, and I will take all of that in as I keep going up the hill. That it's not, we always talk about, art. It's not a race to get to any place. It's the journey, and that's really how I think. Really enjoying every step of the way.
Why do you think you paint? What is your, after all, how many years have you been an artist for now?
Many years. Many years. I mean, I'm not, yeah, I won't count junior high school even, but a few decades. Let's say a few decades. Right. I mean, you know what? I really forget how many, like, oh my God, I look and think I've been painting since, yeah, well, let's say seriously, since I left high school, like since 69 when I got out of high school. That's a long, but I was painting all through high school also. But the point is, I was picking up a brush and putting paint on a canvas since I was in middle school and thinking about the idea of, painting and drawing and color all of that time. So that's a long time. And still, it's very funny because still every time it feels like the first time. I mean, it's that kind of joy comes back to me. And that is what I'm so grateful for, that I can still feel excited and joyful about, I wonder what's going to happen. That's the feeling I get. I wonder and I really should, at some point, I should know, like, well, if I put that color next to that color, this is going to happen. But there's still that kind of mystery involved, which that's what I love. That's what.
But after all of these years of painting and decades of painting, and let's say if you're also finding that joy, but sometimes we say, okay, as artists, like when we're painting something, we're creating something, we're telling our truth, our stories, and whatever we have to say. Now I am looking forward to hearing this from you, because I've only been painting for, let's say, a decade. Like, seriously, not like sense of, like, I've always enjoyed creating, and I think most of us as artists, it's the child in us who's held us for before the profession. But I want to hear from you after all of these years. You've told so many stories, shared so many of your own truth, and what really what really pushes you out of bed today, brings you to your studio, and even feel like, okay, this sense of sharing more and creating more.
Well, because a lot of my work is sort of semi-autobiographical, and my take on, you know, how the world is and how an adolescent might be reacting to it. So, of course, every day it's changing, hopefully for the good, but the thing is, every day it's changing. So every day there is something new to explore in terms of how would I represent that? Like visually, how would I represent that? In my own personal life, my child, who was who's now a transgender adult, there was a whole transition from one gender, so that has influenced sort of how I hold my figures. My figures have always had a kind of gender ambiguity to them. And I've always wanted that in it, where they can't be classified or categorized. But now it's not just a theory or an idea that I have, but an actual personal interaction with someone I love. So, every day, so as I say, every day there is something that is happening in the world or personal. Oh, you're fluttering. Oh, I can hear you. You're just blurry. Yeah, I can hear you. It's just your face is pixelated. Anyway, so that's basically why I get out why I get out of bed every day, and and as I said, it's really about.
I was saying, did you? I was. You were trying to complete something.
Yeah, I didn't. What did you just say? Okay, that's better. Now I can see.
I was asking you a question, but I thought you were saying something. You were completing. Okay, let me ask you. What do you think out of all of these years? What is the hardest part of being an artist, specifically for you? What do you hardest part?
Oh, that's a very difficult question. What is the hardest part? The hardest part, I would say, is, or, when you say the hardest part, I say the most unenjoyable part, okay, for me, is the idea that, once you put the work out, that time between someone looking at it and it leaves your studio and someone's looking at it and what happens to it. It's sort of like, when your child goes off to school for the first time, you don't know how their people are going to respond to them. Like if they're going to embrace them and love them as much as you have loved them having them at home. If what that iffy that part of iffy, like will they like it, will they understand it, and that I find the hardest part. There is another difficult part in terms of the making the living part and finding a gallery part and all of those things. But those, in a way, they're not emotional. The emotional part is if someone likes it is for me the hardest part. And it's not even if it sells; it's just if they, if they understand it, right?
But also, don't you think it could also be sometimes when as artists like you, I remember watching one of your videos and you spoke about vulnerability and putting yourself, and you also shared how you owned your identity, your story, how you grew up, where you came from, and the whole story that we can definitely go into now. And when we put ourselves, I remember, so when my mom passed away, I did a series on her first death anniversary, and I decided to show it in the same city, in the small town that I've been born in. And I had this because in the city that I live, it's a small city. It's not an art center. It's like it's not, so people are not very accustomed to what art is, and so I had that kind of, I knew that is one of the, that was one of those things, and it did bother me at some point. I was conscious that how it would be taken, because I wasn't showing to an audience who was nuanced in the sense of who had context, and they were art goers and things like that, but I wanted to show that work just where it was and where my mom has been. So I was not afraid of the judgment, but I was afraid in the sense of how personal it was to me. It took me a really long time. I had made that work for a very long time, but then I just didn't have the courage to show it, because their judgment of whatever they think about, it's just not the art to me. It's me processing my feelings. And when we put ourselves in the art and then put the out to the world, and when the world makes a judgment about you are accepted or not, it's not the art, it's our realities, who we've been. Can you share your experience with that?
Yes, yes, that's definitely. Well, you said it exactly, perfectly right, and exactly what the feeling is. It's not, and people, even though it is a painting and it's over there and that, but you exactly as you said, you feel as if it's you. It's your person. It's your whole. It's your being. It's your soul. Not to be corny, but it is your soul that you just put out, and it's naked. And it's just you feel so vulnerable. Um, and would I have it any other way? Would I do work that did not make me feel vulnerable? That did not show that part? No, I wouldn't. That's not what I would want to do. But that's the hardest part. That's the scariest part. That's the scariest part. It's funny because we're talking about your mom. When did you lose your mom?
Um, I lost her COVID second wave, 2019.
2019. Yeah. I mean, my mom also, she was 99 years old, which is great that I had her all those years. But, it's funny because well, it's not funny, but, when you're used to having your mother for so long,
Your own growing up years also.
it's just sort of like, oh, that you would say things to her that you don't say to other people. And, that loss is like, oh, where who, even though I have a cousin who I'm really close to, and I have a very supportive husband and friend. There is just that one law, yeah, that and that also that comes into the work in a way that you don't even know how it comes in. You don't know how it comes in. Yeah, it does come in, and that so I completely understand that.
How do you feel like when you approach an idea? What is your process like in the sense of when you're starting a new series? Is like is do you have a method, or it's very intuitive, or how I want to break this down for, let's say, people who are looking. There are a lot of people who look up to you. Now, a lot of times because being a creative does not come with a rule book. We don't even know how. I don't think any of us knows how it works. We just have our own rules, and it's our own. Yeah, it's everything like that. But we look up to each other and we'll feel like, oh my God, how we learn from each other. So if I were to ask you to break your process more tactically in the sense of from an idea, how an idea strikes, to how do you approach that, if that is something worth pursuing for you, or you want to make something, or do you make sketches, or how do you those thoughts or little arcs turn into whole series and whole movements and ideas and stories like this?
Yeah, that's really, I wonder how I start too. I usually begin with, I have a color that I'm mixing. So I'll mix, like, recently, pink has been a color that I'm mixing up. So I'll mix different varieties of pink, a lot of it. And I'll have like three big canvases. And I will paint the whole canvases, each one with just a ground color of this pink on it. And I'll rub it. Some will be very muted kind of pink, just a thin coat of it. Some will be a little bit heavier. Anyway, so there'll be four different pinks and varying sizes of canvases. And that's where I start. And, I think about sort of why is this color? What does this color mean to me? And recently, because of our whole political thing, for me, it's meaning power. Like female power. That's how I see it. Is this pink of power? And also, it's
While you do all of these things, once you're starting out, do you also write often? Do you write your thoughts? Is there also writing from along with it?
oh no, don't write any. That would be very helpful if I wrote something about it because yeah, that would be really good because then there'd be a chain of thought that was linear. No, I don't, and
I don't think our heads are ever linear.
I know there, so I don't, and then but I'm thinking, what this color means, and then depending on the size of the canvas, I'll think about the composition and what I want my figures to be doing in it. Do I want them to be, breaking out of this contained area, or do I want inside and it really the environment to be more then I'll think that I'll think, oh, I think I want it to be, and then I will do a series of lines on the canvas just in terms of what kind of figures, what the movement I want the figures to be in, and that is really, it's very rough, just with paint. Sometimes I'll use a paint stick, but usually just with a brush, and from those lines I make a figure. So they're, and it's really about the movement and how the body is twisting and turning. Um, I'll, recently I've had this idea of how we're all super connected in so many ways. And it's just sort of how that connection turns into something else. Almost how, when we're touching each other, we are transforming, one part of our body into their body. Anyway, so I have this group of figures that are twisted and turning within each other. And so I will just, sketch, this is the shape. Yeah. And then it takes on more life as I develop the figure into more reality, sort of reality.
How do you become more fearless in your work? I love, like, how your work is. How do we become more fearless in our work? Like,
How do we become more fearless? You know what? Because we're doing something crazy like painting. Like that's already a fearless act. It's such a, does any, it's sort of, I always think this is, people have been painting forever and ever and ever. And yet, does it, is it really, does it help anybody? But yes, it does. It does help people because it's so important in terms of culture that all people have have images that they can relate to, that we're writing down many different kinds of story, not just one kind of story. So it is important. And so you must be fearless because you're doing something that is so, I don't know, like, again, like nobody wants you to be doing it. If the higher powers, if control people, they would say no, stop. They would do away with art, right? I mean, so many people, so many, unfortunately, places have, with all sorts of, with literature, with dance, with music, with, even with languages, people don't want certain languages, they don't want images to be seen. So it is, it is an act of freedom to put down images, any kind of painting that you believe in. And that's why you have to continue to do it, despite everything. It's really, it will live on, hopefully, and maybe, I mean, who knows.
after all these years of painting, creating, living the life, um, creative life, what is your heart desire now? What's that, we all have these wishes, like, I want to do this. Like, I think once we reach, once we start experiencing more years of life, we start to tick off a lot of things, but also understand, oh my God, when I thought this would matter, it's actually like, I think a bigger shift has happened while, you move around and you move, and a lot of things change um, with experiences. And I think as we experience life, like, let's say for me, when I lost my mom, I think I have had so many, many, many more births in these just few years. Like, a lot of things that I thought mattered before, um, now it's just completely different. And um, I think I've seen, like, as we grow, and it's not, I'm saying, just in the sense of years of age, but as our experiences, those things start to redefine us. What, at this point, weighing all of those experiences that you've had, truly you feel like, oh, I'm looking forward for this, I want more of that, or I want to do that.
No, that's good. I was really, well. One thing that I do is, something will happen, and then people will say, "Oh, are you really excited about that?" And I'll say, "Oh, yes, that's nice, and we'll see how." Oh, but aren't you getting so excited? And I'll say, "No, I don't get excited until I'm in the actual thing." I had this show at um, a museum in France, and they were like, "Oh, aren't you excited?" And I was like, "Oh, well, it'll be nice. I don't know who's going to come. I don't know people in the Brittany area. I don't, who knows what will happen." But the ability to not anticipate what it's going to be has made me enjoy every moment of whatever the thing is that's happening. So, in terms of what do I want next to happen, I can't you know like that was incredible. That was wonderful, and I was like so happy and surprised by it. That's what I like. I like being surprised. I'm very happy with the galleries that represent me, and things that they do for me is exciting. if I would say, what do I want the future to be? I want to be able to appreciate every little thing that happens that's a surprise for me, and to truly appreciate it. That I don't, I'd love to be in the Whitney Biennial. I'd love to be in the Venice Biennial. I'd love to, I have no control of that, really. I have only, as I was in junior, I have control over one thing, and that's the painting in front of me, the canvas that I'm about, right? That's what, so, and what happens, I have been very fortunate, I think, that I've been able to paint all these years, and it's still, and I love it still so much, that, people have, oh, I don't like that, or, have I gotten praise all the time? No. But I keep going, that's, so I think that, and that's what I tell, my students, I had told them, don't worry about the outside world so much, like what, because you'll always have people that don't like what you do for whatever reason, which really has nothing to do with why you're doing it. So you must continue to, believe in yourself and why you're producing work and why you want to work, and just, and the whole like the baseball, paint and they will find you and then they will love you. I don't know, that's sort of what I think is the case, and of course there are many ways of doing it, of being a successful artist, right? This is my one little way of doing that feels right to me, that I can live with and be happy with. And, I had a family also that was very important to me. I didn't not have children because I thought it would interfere with the career. That was a really important part of what I want in my life. Beg your pardon?
Did you ever think, like a lot of people, even today, they say, like, specifically for women, I think it's,
Mostly for women, they think that.
if they have children or if they start a family, it would take away the time, the attention, and they will have to compromise on their career. Did you ever feel that way?
No, I never thought that way because it was something that added to my creativity, that added to my capacity to love something even more. Why would I deny myself more? I don't know. I never thought that way. And true, it did. Raising kids takes time, and it does take time away from the studio. But I found that when I was in the studio, I was much more focused because I only had this amount of time to do what I did. So I never ever regretted.
I think being a mother could also make you more vulnerable, like more daring sometimes. Like you also said, like your experience as a mother has also impacted your storytelling. It's added an experience of your life, and you're processing that experience and sharing it further with the world.
Right, correct. You know, that's exactly. And has it all been, oh, rosy? No, it not at all. But I loved every minute of it. Maybe not when it's exactly happening, but it's still, it's a part of who you are, and it's a part of my story.
Let me ask one question. Out of all these years that you've been an artist, okay, been an artist, been a woman, a mother, a wife, I think as women we play so many important roles. What do you think, for you as an artist also, keeping that in the center and you playing other roles, what were the most difficult years all of these years, that if you were to look back today and feel like these few years or whatever these stages of life as an artist were the most difficult for me?
Um, the most difficult as an artist or as a person?
As an artist, or you trying to juggle like,
To juggle the whole thing. I guess the most difficult times were probably when the most. I'm trying to think. What were the most? I would say the most difficult times emotionally for me was when I was trying to have children and still be an artist. So I went through many miscarriages. So that became difficult because one, I could not. I wanted to get involved. I wanted to teach more in this university, but I couldn't because I was really trying to get pregnant, and I couldn't, and I kept having miscarriage. So that meant I could not be around any certain chemicals, and it was, it was stressful and emotionally stressful. So I didn't have the capacity to give to a student when I was feeling so depleted. Um, so that was, I would say, that was the most depressing time. Depressing, but difficult. And then it was hard to work because to do my painting, because I was also feeling very just sad, So there was nothing. I was still painting and trying to work, but I would say that was the most difficult because nothing was coming. Nothing. The thing that I wanted most at that moment was to have a child, and it was just like, tragedy after tragedy after tragedy in doing that. So that was difficult. In terms of my career, I think, when I, let's say, I wanted to be in a specific show and I didn't get into that show and felt that it was a total rejection of everything that who I was and the work and everything. So that was, but looking back, I can't even say that was a crucial show for me. Looking now, moment, it was devastating. It was devastating. But at the moment, now it wasn't. So, I think, but you're right. It is about juggling, and like, you have your career, you have your family, you have all these things, and you're moving them around. But that kind of juggling, it keeps you moving. It keeps you alert, right? It keeps you really alert and like, oh, gotta catch that one. Whoops, that was. It may it. I think it brings a kind of, an activity and vitalness to your life, to like constantly go, like you're, and for me, and yeah, I mean, not on edge. I'm just sort of, oh, what's going to happen next, and watching, my children grow, and who are they going to become? Like, you just don't know, that whole process of.
You wait for it to tell it, like, like a process, creative process.
It's life is a process, and I enjoy the whole process. That's why, in terms of, people will say, oh, what's your favorite painting? The painting that I'm working on at the moment is always my favorite because it's in process, and I don't know what's going to happen. Like, oh, what will it become? What will it? So that's.
Okay, last question, I promise.
Sure. Oh, okay. No, no, no. I enjoy talking. You're so easy to talk to.
Oh, thank you. My last question would be, now where you are, I think it has something to do that we were just speaking to. Now where you are, like you said, in that moment, sometimes we feel like, specifically, I want to, I'll elaborate on this a little bit. As women, we're always put into these frames and stereotypes. Let's say I'm 32 years old, not married, don't have children. I'm okay with where I am professionally, but could I do better? Do I want better? Yeah, for my artist self, definitely. But also, ever since my mom, I feel like I had to shift gears, and like I had to give myself so much more time. And but I also I constantly start feeling this fear. Okay, if I don't have children now, will I, like, am I missing a train? Will this not happen for me? Or if I don't focus or don't pick up myself as an artist today, I don't know if it'll ever happen. Or am I being, like, like you say, like you just said, like sometimes in that moment we feel like, if it's going to happen now, or it's not never going to happen, or if it didn't happen now, it's like it's going to change my life and everything, or everything I've worked towards. Or what is your, looking back at those moments in your younger self, who was like in these moments, and people like me who are in different stages of life where we feel, okay, if I'm not getting enough attention, if my show's not working, I'm not getting exhibitions, I'm not selling. I mean, today's economy, a lot of us are struggling, a lot of artists are struggling, actually. um, what is your advice from your experience? How have you battled these, these troubles, and what would you say?
Oh, well, it's funny because I didn't have my first child until I was 39. So, you know, so and it's considered a geriatric pregnancy at 39. Anyway, the point is, looking back when I wasn't married until I was 36, I think. So 32. I get the feeling, and like what because I did want to be married and have a family. That was something I wanted. Of course, I wanted my career to progress also. So I wanted all of the.
But you didn't marry because you had a career, or it was just something? Did you didn't marry by the time you married because you were focused on your career, or it was just because it didn't happen at that point?
No, I was focused on. I mean, I thought I was focused on it, all of it at the same time. Meeting somebody, getting married, uh, and the career, and I was focused. It was all jumbled up in the pot, and you know, I was just taking a bite out of all of it. Yeah, right. It was a big stew. I want it all, and I'm eating. Let's see what sticks. I was basically. I was doing I was doing it. I wanted all of it, and there didn't seem to be, there wasn't, a clear way of getting any of it, and that's why I said it was a big stew. I just threw it all in the pot and like, let's see what I pull out today. Okay, that might work. Okay, that person will work. Not, that opportunity will work, but that was not. It was just a random choice of things that happened. I don't. There are some people who go about it very systematically and can plan it and can do it, but I wasn't one of those. And I think that in the end, it is. There were people in my life that on paper looked, wow, that's the perfect person. That would go nicely with your plan, and it was just like the absolute opposite person is not the absolute opposite, but that was not the correct person. And the correct gallery, there isn't one, or the person that you should meet who will then help you in your career. I met people and they didn't do anything, and yet it's a random person that happened to see my work at an open studio that I found out much later who was the most helpful in terms of securing a grant for me. Someone, I didn't know them. They happened to come in. They recommended me, and the only reason I found out that they had done that was years, maybe 12 years afterwards. I happened to run into them, and they said, "Oh, it was past the time when they could speak," and they said, "I was the person that did that." So you know, the thing is, I mean, what I would say is to be kind to every person you meet, because you never know if that person is going to be the person that will give you the most kindness back in ways that you don't know. That, to follow. I met Romeo Bearden year before. I guess it was before I'd gone to graduate school, and my friend knew him, and I went to his studio and I showed him my work, and he went through it, and I really thought this was right after college. I met him, and I thought he's going to be the one that tells me exactly what to do and how to get in on the art business. Yeah, he's going to. And he liked the work, and then at the end of this 45-minute looking at my work and conversation, he said, follow your heart. And I was like, okay, follow my heart. Okay, what else? Okay, what? Oh, and who should I meet? And where should I? Wait a minute. I think there are some more. And he said I didn't say that to him back to him. I just and and he said, um, follow your heart. That was it. And I left thinking, what the? what? What was that? What was that? And I did not understand that until, you know, 20 years after, when I realized that that's it. And that's what I had been doing. There isn't a magic person to introduce you to. There isn't a magic, grant to get. There's nothing. It's all, you know, it's you. And it's that hard, and it's that. So, in terms of, right, you're at a stage where all things are possible though for you right now, right? I mean, all things. I mean, you're so fresh and young and beautiful, and and talented, and you're doing stuff. All of those things will happen. Oh, there's someone at my door. I don't know who they are. Let me just go check for 1 second. I'm sorry. Hello. Okay, I have no idea who that was, but I thought maybe they left something at the door, but they didn't leave a sign, so I don't know.
I love those advices. I follow your heart. I think we're going to write that in bold.
I mean, it was it's so simplistic, and yet it's so, that's it, because you know what? Once when you know that you're following what you believe in, truly, in who you are and the soul of yourself, it's like, okay, that's me. You feel good, like whatever happens, happens. What happens, right? Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, at the time, I was like, really? That's it? But that's it? And he's like, that's it. That's it. And the funny thing is, years later, I'm represented by June Kelly, who was a very good friend of his and who represented him. And, so it's like, I'm with, would I have known that at that moment? Or did he say, and, everything that happened before, from that time to I got into the gallery was really crucial to the development of my work and of me as a person, because it's the person that creates the work.
Absolutely. My goodness, this was such a good chat, Philomena. Thank you so much. I I could talk for a few more hours. Absolutely. But we are way beyond. We've spoken for an hour already. For everyone who's tuned in so far, I mean, thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your heart.
Thank you, thank you, and if you're here, please drop by. All right, if you can visit.
I will absolutely. I'm coming this year, and I will definitely. I'd love to meet you.
Oh, really? Oh, great, great, good. Okay, well, you know where I am.
Yes, I have your number. I have you, and I will keeping pinging you back again. But one more thing for everyone who's listening. How is there anything how we can follow you? How can I listeners um, find you, support you, follow you if there's a project that you want to share with us?
Well, let's see. I do have a show that's up now. It's a group show in San Francisco at the Jenkins Johnson Gallery, if anybody's out in California. And it's a group show called, oh, what's the name? Oh, no, this is really bad that I can't remember this. Anyway, it's
I will add the details. We'll look in and we'll.
you can add the details, yeah. And I'm going to be in Samio's gallery in Paris in a group show also opening August 31st through September. I think it's through October, the middle of October. So those two things are happening. And you can follow me on my Instagram, which is Philemona, and then the number 8 at the end of it, because apparently there are 7 other Philemonas in the world. I didn't realize that, but anyway, there are 7 other Philemonas. So that's it. Oh, and I was pleased to be a juror for the art exhibit that's opening at the Montclair Art Museum, but in September. So anyway, so that's about all.
Much. I will make sure we add everything. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you. So enjoyable, really. Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.